Good morning, friends. Welcome to Water Resources Engineering class. We are in Unit 4, wherein Unit 4 is divided into two parts. One is groundwater hydrology, and the second one is water requirements of crops. In other words, irrigation. So, these two are there in Unit 4. We have completed groundwater hydrology, and now from today onwards, in the next 5 lectures, we deal with the water requirements of crops. So, the water requirement of crops deals with the crop seasons in India, cropping pattern, duty and delta. To this extent, in today's class, we will deal. Today's class mainly focuses on these aspects: water requirements of crops, principal crops, crop seasons in India, cropping pattern, and cropping pattern in AP and Telangana. Just being a civil engineering student here, at least what is happening around us, that you need to know. Coming to the water requirements of crops, the water that is needed for any crop growth is not just water absorbed by the plants, but also the water lost from the soil. There are two things here which are not separable: soil and plant. So, whatever is required for the soil and the plant for the healthy growth of a crop is what we call it as the water requirement of a crop. On what factors this water requirement depends on? The first factor it depends on is the climate. You all know that the more the temperature, the more the water requirement, the more the wind, the more the water requirement, the more the humidity, the lesser the water requirement, the more the rainfall, the lesser the water requirement. The soil type. Suppose if the soil is a sandy soil, naturally more and more will be drained off. Then in such a case, you require more water. Whereas in clayey soils, naturally they retain water longer period. And crop type, whatever you are growing. For example, crop type such as rice, if you are taking it up, naturally rice requires more and more water actually. Whereas compared to that, the wheat requires less quantity of water actually. And the practices which you are adapting for raising any crop, that means, are you really going for mulching? What do you mean by mulching or mulching? Mulching is nothing but actually just if you are covering the soil so that the soil moisture is retained. That covering the soil may be depending upon any organic or inorganic material. Organic material means like for example leaves and all, if you spread it on that, that is an organic process of mulching. Whereas inorganic process of mulching means you lay a plastic sheet on the surface of the soil, so thereby the soil moisture can be retained for a longer period. So whether you are adopting such a practice, now also you can see in many of the fields people are using the plastic fields to see that the soil is in wet condition always. Then weeding, so that means unwanted plants, are you removing it, are you doing it? And the fertilizer use, and these are all the things also that affects the water requirement and water demand. So what is water requirement? It is the requirement for the healthy crop growth, not only for the plant but also for the soil. And on what factor it depends on? The climate is one factor, soil type is one factor, crop type is one factor, and agricultural practices which you are really adopting. And then what are the components of water requirement? The components of water requirement, we really call it as actual water consumed by the plants and the soil. That is what we call it as consumptive use. which we will deal it. We have already studied about evapotranspiration, and this evapotranspiration we have studied from the angle of the losses, evaporation, transpiration there. But here, from the crop requirement point of view, the same thing is also called consumptive use. Again, we will study in this unit also about the same thing. And there are special needs for the crops. What means land preparation? For that you may require some quantity of water. Similarly, for crops like let us say rice or some vegetables, actually transplantation is also required, because plants you keep it much earlier. So for that also you require some more land. Apart from that, the seepage losses, the conveyance losses, the deep percolation, these are all together the water requirements actually that for the crops. Next, coming to the next point, what are the principal crops? The principal crops can be divided into three classifications. One is agricultural classification based on crop seasons and classification based on water requirement. So kindly remember what are our requirements. One is agricultural classification, and second one is crop seasons based classification, and third one is water requirement based classification. So these are the three classifications which we want to study. So let us take agricultural classification. Agricultural classification means the field crops. Field crops means, I mean to say that whatever that which we produce, that is only for eating purpose. That means for our food purpose. So such as wheat, rice, maize, millets, pulses, all these come under the food crops actually. To be frank, rather than field crops, I can call it as food crops. Whereas second one is commercial crops. Commercial crops means maybe cotton, maybe tobacco, maybe sugarcane. These are all the second level commercial crops. Food crops, commercial crops. Then oilseed crops. Oilseed crops are also food crops, but only thing is separately we have made the seeds whichever you are like mustard oil, groundnut oil, sesame oil, linseed. So these are all the third type of crops. Then horticulture crops. The horticulture crops means the fruit crops, the vegetable crops, flower crops. These are the things which comes under horticulture crops. Then apart from that, the plantation crops, such as plantations are tea plantation, coffee plantation, rubber plantation in Kerala. So these are all called as plantation crops. Apart from that, forage crops. The forage crops are nothing but the fodder for the animals, like for example grass and fodder for the animals. So they are all called as forage crops. If whatever is not covered in this, let us say food crops we talked about, commercial crops we talked about, oilseed crops we talked about, horticulture crops we talked about, plantation crops we talked about, miscellaneous forage crops we talked. Apart from that, whatever is remaining, such as medicinal crops, sericulture crops, spices, all these comes under the last category, which we call it as miscellaneous crops. So these are the various crops that which we come across generally under agricultural classification. Once again, can you name it off? Food crops you can call it as, commercial crops, oilseed crops, horticulture crops, then plantation crops, forage crops, miscellaneous crops such as medicinal, then what you call it as spices, sericulture crops. So this is one classification. Like as a civil engineer, so this is an agriculturalist classification. An agricultural person, BSc agriculture, MSc agriculture, those people they classify, this is how the things are. But as a civil engineer, how you classify is based on crop seasons. Your things are always based on these two. So crop seasons, what are the important crop seasons that which one is Kharif crop. Please remember, Kharif crops are same thing is also called as monsoon crops. Kharif crop or monsoon crops, both are same. Kharif crop or monsoon crop, both are same. So kharif crops, when they will start, for example, they will be sown in the beginning of June, that is at the beginning of the monsoon, and harvested by October. So kharif crop is June to October. This is the maximum period. So from June to October, if a crop is raised in the field, that is what we call it as Kharif crop. Kharif crop coincides with monsoon. That is number 2. So that is why. Then second, what are the examples of such crop? The rice, maize, with our pulses, great millet. So these are the things. Main thing is rice, then maize, basically great millet, pulses, all comes under Kharif crops actually. Then second one is Rabi crops. Rabi crops are nothing but winter crops. Please remember, the moment Rabi is used, it is winter crop actually. Rabi crop is nothing but winter crop. So normally when it will be, so the moment up to October, this is over. So we start with October actually, and then we end with March. So sowing is in October and then harvesting is in March. Then that is what we call it as Rabi crop. Rabi crop or winter crop. Kharif crop or monsoon crop. So sown in October and harvested in March. And crops under this category are mainly wheat, gram, barley, mustard, etc. are all Rabi crops actually. There are third type of crops which we call it as perennial crops. Perennial crops means almost they require water throughout the year. They require water throughout the year. And crops under this category are number 1, sugarcane, fruits, vegetables. Mainly sugarcane is one which requires water for a longer time actually. So that is what perennial crop is. And the fourth one is a specific special thing is called as 8 months crop. The 8 months crop is mainly cotton actually. It requires water for a period of 8 months. But out of the 4, which are the major things? Only 2. One is Kharif, the second one is Rabi. Kharif is which one? Monsoon crop. Rabi is which one actually? Winter crop. Kharif starts when? June basically, and ends in where? October. Whereas Rabi starts in where? October and ends in where? March basically. So that you should remember. But whereas the lengthy crop which requires more water is sugarcane, which requires water throughout. And vegetables also, we don't have any time, continuously it goes on actually. Similarly fruits also. Whereas 8 months crop is cotton actually. So this is the classification based on crop seasons. Then classification based on water requirements. Placed on water requirements, the same thing we call it as dry crop, wet crop, garden crop. Please remember 3 only. Dry crop, wet crop, garden crop. Dry crop means what actually? They do not require water for irrigation actually. Only with rainwater is sufficient for its growth. That is what we call it as dry crop. Dry crop means it doesn't require water for irrigation actually. It only through whatever rainwater is there, based on that it grows. Then what is a wet crop? Wet crop requires irrigation water. Which crop? Wet crop always requires irrigation water actually. And garden crops require throughout the year, it requires water actually. So these are the 3 things based on water requirements of crops. So agricultural classification, crop seasons, and third one is water requirements. So that we completed. So what are the classification of crops we have completed based on the different requirements. So what are the principal crops and how the principal crops are being classified, right? Now let us go into what are the crop seasons with respect to India specifically. You all know that India being a monsoon driven country. Monsoon driven country means for us most of the water for the crops is only through monsoon. So whatever water we get in the monsoon, we store it and we supply it through the irrigation channels throughout the year so that the crops can be raised. That is our philosophy. So it's a monsoon driven country. Please remember this wording. India is a monsoon driven country and has 3 crop seasons. What is that? Number 1, Kharif. Already I mentioned. Kharif means monsoon crop. Monsoon crop means which season it comes? Rainy season only. Sowing is with the onset of monsoon, June, July. That is first thing. Harvesting is September, October. I mentioned June to October. So June, July, this is onset of monsoon and this is harvesting period actually. Main crop is rice basically. Rice, maize, groundnut, jowar, bajra, sugarcane, cotton. All these can be sown actually during this period. Then water requirements for this is very high. Any of these crops, if you treat, water requirement is high actually because monsoon crops coincide with high temperature and evapotranspiration. Right, next. What is Rabi crop? Rabi crop, just now we mentioned it is winter crop actually. And when we will sow it? October actually. And when it will be harvested? March, that is number 2. Which is the main crop? Wheat, barley, mustard, gram, linseed. So these are so what you call it as oil seed plants actually, seed plants. So this is the Rabi crop actually. Water requirement for this is comparatively very less actually because in the winter there is no evaporation loss is very low basically. So this is second thing. And third one is classified as summer season. Summer season means between Rabi and Rabi and basically Kharif. That means from March to, for example, June. So this March to June, which we call it as jade, actually summer crop. What generally we raised in the summer? Watermelon, muskmelon, cucumbers, vegetables, fodder crops, such type of things we raise in summer crops. So winter crops, then one is monsoon crop, rainy season crops, Kharif. Then winter crop, Rabi. Then jade crop means summer. Summer means mainly that fruits, what you normally which you eat in summer. What is watermelon, muskmelon, cucumbers, vegetables and fodder crops we go. Irrigation is essential since rainfall is negligible in this season because there will be no rainfall during the period March to June. So irrigation is a must actually. And what is the cropping pattern? What do you understand by cropping pattern? Cropping pattern is nothing but the sequence and spatial arrangement of crops. Spatial arrangement of crops in sequence, one after the other. What is the pattern which we are following? So the yearly sequence and spatial arrangement of crops is what we call it as cropping pattern. It depends on what? It depends on the climate, it depends upon the irrigation availability, the soil fertility and market needs. Depending upon the soil fertility, number 1, it depends upon the irrigation availability, water availability, it depends on the climate, it depends on the needs. So basically based on that we divide. What are the examples if you can give me in this country? Generally what is the pattern? If I take these 3 states, Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, general pattern is rice, then wheat. Right? Once rice, then next crop is if Kharif they go for rice and then Rabi they go for wheat. So like that they go for it. This is cropping pattern. Whereas if you take it coastal Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, majority people rice, again rice actually. So that is number 2. Whereas if you could go to Gujarat, Maharashtra, cotton, groundnut. This is the third thing actually. I am talking about major things only, right? So this is the thing. Then mixed cropping pattern or intercropping. So growing more than one crop simultaneously. that is wheat plus mustard. Many of the people will do simultaneously wheat plus mustard together. This is what we call it as mixed cropping pattern. So these are all the basic general cropping patterns in India, right? And importance helps in optimum use of water, ensures soil fertility, and balances food and amount and fodder crop needs actually. Let us see in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana general cropping pattern how it is. Andhra Pradesh has diverse agroclimatic zones, right? You know it. One is coastal deltaic region. Second one is Rayalaseema drylands actually and uplands. So this is the region is such that it varies a lot. Hence cropping pattern, cropping also varies depending upon the irrigation water availability. So major food crops, if you take it, rice, which we call it as paddy, dominant in Krishna, Godavari deltas, Nellore and Guntur. So these are the four districts where generally paddy is more. Then millets and pulses, that means jowar, bajra, red gram in Rayalaseema and upland districts actually. Then maize. Maize is increasingly cultivated in Nellore and Prakasam district, Anantapur districts. So depending upon the water availability, depending upon the climate, depending upon the soil fertility, the type of crops have been chosen. So you can choose the coastal belt, especially Godavari Delta, Nellore, Krishna, normally rice will go. And whereas millets and pulses that go in Rayalaseema and uplands, jowar, bajra, red gram in there. And maize basically increasingly cultivated in Nellore, Prakasam, Anantapur, where the water requirements are, water availability is very less. Coming to commercial crops, commercial crops mainly Prakasam and Guntur, Kannur, this is cotton generally, that is the thing. Similarly, if you go for tobacco in the entire Andhra Pradesh, Prakasam and Guntur are popular districts. These two, most of the people, they go for the commercial crops, either this or this. If they are not going for the food crop and going for commercial crop, Prakasam, Guntur districts, cotton, tobacco actually. Sugarcane, if you take it, Krishna, East West Godavari, Visakhapatnam, these are all the basic things, and Guntur a part of it actually. Only thing is where the Krishna river is there, on the side of it, on the banks of it, at some portions in Guntur district. Otherwise, Krishna, East and West Godavari, Visakhapatnam, sugarcane. So this is regarding the commercial crops. Similarly, if you go for horticulture crops, actually, AP is a horticultural hub actually. So mango, banana, basically citrus fruits, chilies and oil palm. This is mainly grown in majority of the areas where basically even in between the cropping pattern also, all these basically are being grown actually in Andhra Pradesh. Mango is very, very common in most of the districts. Banana is also common in Krishna and Guntur districts actually. And citrus fruits, orange and all, Anantapur and all is famous for citrus fruits actually. Chilies also, Prakasam and Guntur chilies, and like that oil palm also, Prakasam and Guntur districts, oil palm is also possible. So this is the third one actually. If you take it pattern summary, if you want, coastal Andhra Pradesh, rice dominated. Coastal Andhra Pradesh is completely dominated by rice. Two rice crops they will take for year. One is Kharif and one is Rabi. Both the crops actually, both the Kharif and Rabi, they take paddy crop. Whereas Rayalaseema dryland, if you take it, mainly groundnut, pulses, millets, they will take it. And commercial crops, if you see, cotton, tobacco, sugarcane. So this is the way how the cropping pattern is situated in Andhra Pradesh. Same thing I will talk in Telangana also. Telangana has a semi-arid climate actually. Please remember, it is a semi-arid climate, depends heavily on irrigation. Depends heavily on irrigation, maybe canals from Godavari, Krishna or bore wells. Three options. Canals which are coming from Godavari river, Krishna river or bore wells. These are the three options and mainly depends on here, this entire Telangana depends heavily on the irrigation water. So what are the major food crops? Food crop is rice actually. So now the leading crop, this is the leading crop under Kaleswaram lift irrigation project. The paddy is the almost, you can say after Punjab, they have reached to number 2 basically in growing paddy in Telangana basically. Especially in Karimnagar, Nizamabad, Warangal, Khammam. These 4 districts, paddy is being grown actually because of this lift irrigation scheme. Then second one is maize. Majorly in Khammam, Nalgonda and Medak districts, maize actually. And jowar, bajra, pulses, especially in Mahbub Nagar and Adilabad. So food crops, if you take it, rice or paddy, especially Karimnagar, Nizamabad, Warangal, Khammam, these 4 districts. Whereas maize is Khammam, Nalgonda and Medak districts. Whereas jowar, bajra and pulses, Mahbub Nagar and Adilabad districts. Coming to the commercial crops, if you take it, cotton, Telangana's largest commercial crop, grown extensively in Adilabad, Warangal, Karimnagar, Khammam. These are the 4 districts. Second commercial crop is chilies, Khammam, Warangal, basically these. And third one commercial crop is turmeric, actually Nizamabad and Karimnagar. So 3 commercial crops. One is cotton extensively grown in Adilabad and Warangal, Karimnagar, Khammam, whereas chilies, Khammam and Warangal, and turmeric, Nizamabad and Karimnagar. Whereas horticulture thing, if you take it, mango, citrus, pomegranate, guava in Mahbub Nagar, Nizamabad, Warangal, these 3 districts. If I take the summary of it, the irrigated belts under Godavari and Krishna projects, rice, maize and cotton. Whereas the dry tracts, pulses, jowar, bajra, oil seeds. Commercial crops, cotton, largest share, chili, turmeric. These are the 3 things. So this is the cropping pattern in Telangana. And if you see dominant crops in Andhra Pradesh, rice especially in Krishna Godavari deltas, whereas Telangana rice expansion due to Kaleswaram project. Dryland, groundnut, jowar, red gram in Rayalaseema, jowar, bajra, pulses, Mahbubnagar and Adilabad. Commercial crops, cotton, tobacco, sugarcane. Cotton is major, chilies and turmeric. Horticulture, mango, banana, citrus, oil palm, whereas here mango, citrus, guava, pomegranate. So this is the basic thing in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So with this, I will close this lecture number 1 in the water requirements of crops. Thank you very much for your patient listening, and thank you very much.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.